Absolutely. So let's move on to another good news, which is local government autonomy. And despite a different reaction from one or two governors, seeing that states have commenced council post preparations shows that this is a good move. But how do you describe the reaction of one or two governors who have said that we'll review this verdict and seek homegrown solutions to this ruling? And if that is to stand, will that not jeopardize the end result intended to making sure governors get to the grassroots? Is the presidency bothered?
I think without any attempt to malign or disrespect anybody, I think it's fair to appreciate the fact that if you remove a feeding bottle from a baby, the baby's entitled to cry. And so if there are, legitimate attempts to seek any kind of a legal redress against the judgment of the Supreme Court, the administration of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will actively encourage anyone to go through a legal process to see to whatever challenge they want to institute. That is within their rights. That is within the right of any state or state governor or any actor. And so that's always going to be supported by this law-abiding administration of the president. With that said, I think that the example that you've cited is one that stands in isolation. That is not a collective position of the subnational administrators in this country. I think there is a recognition of the fact that what the president has done is to really abide by the legal due process available to achieve the kind of economic and national restructuring that our people have long clamored for. But unlike other, failed presidential candidates that campaigned on the notion of restructuring, even though they did not embark upon it when they had the chance to serve in high office, this is a president who did not talk a lot about restructuring during the campaigns, but assiduously and effectively, upon taking office, has effectively executed on restructuring, and he's done it through due process. And this is what Nigerians are applauding today across the country. This is why even within the political class there is alignment with the decision of the Supreme Court, because they recognize that the processes that led up to that decision were in line with the rule of law. And in addition to that, I think it's also important to note that when we look at the developmental challenges in the country across sectors, one of the elements that Nigerians have long groaned about, and rightfully so, has been the fact that, at the base of our society, the base of political and public administration, there has not been the kind of service delivery that justifies the existence of that tier. And I think one of the major outcomes of the judgment of the Supreme Court is the fact that there is no longer space for local government administrators to hide behind the finger and point fingers at anybody else for non-performance. Now that there is not just a judgment of the Supreme Court, but the implementation of that judgment, the local government administrators are going to be held accountable by their people to provide the services that those funds are intended to be used for. And that's something that I think should excite every Nigerian. But I also think that when you look at, for example, the road sector, the work sector, right? Quite naturally over the course of time, and again, a lot of this has to do with just the lack of availability of critical information to our people over time. But right now, you have a scenario in which across this country of ours, we have about 200,000 kilometers of total roadway. 200,000 kilometers of roadway across the country. That is the sum total of roads belonging to the federal government, to the state governments, and to the local governments, 200,000 kilometers. As we speak, you have essentially 35,000 kilometers that are domiciled as federal roads under the management and supervision of the Federal Ministry of Works, right? That's 35,000 out of 200,000 kilometers. You have another 35,000 kilometers that is domiciled within the under the supervision of and management of the state governments of the country. And then you have a whopping, a staggering 130,000 kilometers out of 200,000 kilometers that are under the management and supervision of local governments across our country. When you look at those numbers, right, and you appreciate the fact that our local governments have been consistently and actively defunded or underfunded by successive state administrations over the course of decades now, it is not a secret, it is not a shock, or it should not be a surprise when Nigerians across the country are complaining about the state of roads. I think there has long been this appreciation, or this idea rather, that you know, when you see a road in the country and it's in deplorable condition, look at the president, look at the minister of works. That's the natural inclination, you know, naturally, right? But that's not the way the federal system works. And when you recognize that only 16%, representing the 35,000 kilometers I mentioned, belong to the federal government, and another 16%